Disguised as a waiter, I watched her evening celebration. And by nightfall, her belongings were standing by the door. The first sign wasn't a scream. It wasn't a text or a lipstick stain or some cliché perfume I didn't recognize. No, the first sign was far quieter than that. It was a jacket. Just a jacket. I came home from work like I always do, around 6:15, later if traffic's a mess. Jenna was already home, which was odd. Thursdays were usually her late nights at the office. I remember glancing at my phone just to double-check the time, like maybe I'd misread something, or maybe the universe was off by an hour. But it was 6:18 p.m. And there she was in the kitchen making tea like nothing was out of place. I was taking off my shoes when I saw it. Hanging from the coat rack in the hallway, tucked neatly next to her beige trench and my navy parka, was a jacket I'd never seen before. Black, clean, sharp cut, not my size, not mine. Stood out, not because it was flashy, but because it didn't belong. My first thought was stupid. I assumed maybe it was mine and I had just forgotten I bought it. That happens, right? You see something you swear you've never seen before and then realize it was hiding in a closet since last winter. But no, I knew my clothes. I'm not exactly a fashion guy, but I keep things simple and familiar. Jenna's always told me I buy the same thing in different shades. This jacket? It was expensive. Tailored. Something a man with ambition would wear. Someone who cared how he looked when he took it off in front of someone else's wife. I stared at it for a few seconds too long. I didn't touch it. Didn't even walk toward it. Just looked. "Hey!" Jenna called out from the kitchen. Her voice light, upbeat. "You're home early." "Yeah," I said slowly. Traffic wasn't bad. My eyes were still on the jacket. She walked into the hallway, drying her hands with a dish towel. "Everything okay?" I tilted my head toward the coat rack. "Whose jacket is that?" Her eyes followed my gesture and I saw it, the flicker. Just for a fraction of a second. A pause. A micro-expression. Her brain recalibrating. "Oh," she said almost too casually. "That's Eric's." I turned to look at her. "Eric?" "Yeah. From work." She smiled. "Wide. Too wide. You remember Eric from accounting. He stopped by real quick to drop off some paperwork I left at the office. I told him he could just swing by on his way home. He was here." She said, folding the towel. "Just for a few minutes. Didn't even come inside, really. Just handed it over and left. Said he'd come back for the jacket tomorrow. Forgot he had it with him." I nodded, slow and quiet. "That's so?" "Yeah," she said, still smiling. Too confident now, like she was leaning into the story just a little too hard. "You met him, I think, at the holiday party last year." "I didn't go to the holiday party last year." She blinked. Right, you were sick. I'm mixing up years. He's been around forever, though. I talk about him all the time." She didn't. Not once. But I didn't argue. I didn't call her out. I didn't ask the questions that had already beg asterisk and piling up like traffic cones in my mind. Instead, I nodded again, slower this time, and forced a smile that probably looked a lot like hers. Hollow. Rehearsed. Plastic. "Okay," I said. She relaxed. Maybe too much. The rest of the evening went on like nothing had happened. She made dinner, pasta with that garlic bread I love. We watched a couple episodes of the crime series we were halfway through. She even laughed out loud at a joke one of the characters made. Reached over and touched my arm like she used to, but I wasn't present. Not really. My eyes kept drifting back to the hallway, to the ghost of that jacket, even after she moved it into the guest room closet. I heard the hangers clink as she did it. Heard her try to make it sound like an afterthought. "Let me get this out of the way. It's cluttering the hall." Innocent. Thoughtful, even. But it wasn't for neatness. It was about hiding. Jenna and I have been married 6 years. Together 8. Our rhythm used to be easy. Finish each other's sentences. Text each other dumb memes. Know when something was off just by the way the other one walked through the door. We were never the couple that yelled or threw things or aired our business on Facebook. We were private, tight-knit, unshakable. At least I thought we were. I spent that night lying in bed beside her, watching the soft glow of her phone reflect on her face. She scrolled for a while, smiled at something, typed a reply. I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. But I wasn't asleep. Not even close. In the days that followed, I kept telling myself it was nothing. People forget jackets. People smile weird when they're nervous. People lie sometimes, not about big things, just small stuff to avoid unnecessary arguments. Right? But that damn jacket had changed something. Or maybe it hadn't changed anything at all. Maybe it just revealed what I'd been too blind or too trusting to see. That was the thought I couldn't get rid of. Because once doubt gets in, it doesn't walk away. It builds. It roots. It grows. And Jenna had started changing. It wasn't just the jacket. It was everything after. She'd been working later than usual 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. I didn't say anything at first. We'd always respected each other's careers. And I knew her team had picked up a big client. But there were inconsistencies that didn't sit right. One night she came home flushed, out of breath, and claimed she had to walk 8 blocks because her Uber app glitched. Another time she said she'd had dinner at her desk, but I found an empty to-go bag from a Thai place she hated stuffed in the kitchen trash. I asked about it and she shrugged. A coworker grabbed food for everyone. That's all. She used to hate the gym. Hate it. Anytime I suggested going together, she'd make a joke about how her cardio was walking to the fridge. But suddenly, she was a fitness girl. New leggings, new water bottle, a monthly membership to a yoga studio downtown. She never invited me. When I offered to join her, she brushed it off. "It's my quiet time," she said once, not unkindly, but still different. She changed her hair, started wearing perfume I hadn't smelled before, got her nails done twice in 1 week, wore heels to work again, bought new underwear, then claimed it was on sale, which I didn't even ask. And her phone, God, her phone. Jenna used to leave it anywhere. On the nightstand, on the kitchen counter, even in the bathroom sometimes. Unlocked. Available. No codes. No secrecy. It used to buzz and she'd say, "Can you grab that? Might be my sister." Not anymore. Now it was always face down. Always locked. And when it did buzz, she'd glance at it quickly, press the side button to make it go dark, and pretend like it didn't happen. If I asked who it was, she'd answer vaguely, "Work. Spam. Nothing important." She used to let me scroll for directions or queue up a playlist in the car. But the last time I reached for her phone, she grabbed it first, reflexively, like it was a ticking bomb I wasn't supposed to touch. That night, I laid in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling while she typed under the covers. Her screen lit up her face like a flashlight. She smiled again, a small, private smile, and I realized I didn't know who she was texting. Or worse, I did. I started checking things. I wish I could say I had self-control, that I rose above the instinct. But I didn't. I became the guy I swore I'd never be. The paranoid husband. The guy who watches, listens, counts time, measures distance, reads tone. I started logging her comings and goings, mental notes at first, then timestamps on my phone. She said she'd be home at 7:15. She walked in at 8:03. No explanation. She said she was going to Trader Joe's. Came back with a single bottle of wine and no groceries. She told me her phone died and she couldn't text back. But when I glanced at her call history later that night while she was in the shower, it showed an hour-long conversation with a number I didn't recognize. I Googled it. It was registered to a business line. Unlisted. I didn't confront her. I wasn't ready. Because confronting her meant turning suspicion into reality. And once it's real, you can't undo it. There's no rewind button. You don't get to say, "Never mind." You don't get to be wrong and relieved. Instead, I convinced myself I needed more. But the emotional gap between us was becoming too wide to ignore. She used to text me during the day. Nothing fancy, just a meme, or a "How's your day?" or a random "I love you" in the middle of a meeting. That had stopped. Now I'd text her and get nothing for hours. Or I'd get a dry busy. Talk later. Once, I sent a photo of a dog wearing sunglasses sitting at a bar. Normally, that would have gotten a string of laughing emojis. This time, just a single LOL. I know it sounds petty, but when you know someone long enough, you know their patterns. You can feel the pauses. You can hear the silences even when they're filled with words. We stopped laughing together. We stopped sitting close on the couch. We stopped talking before bed. I'd say, "Good night," and she'd murmur MMHM without looking up from her phone. I started having dreams, vivid, awful ones, of her whispering into someone else's ear, of watching her from a distance as she kissed someone behind a hotel. Once, I dreamed I was at our wedding again, but she walked past me, straight down the aisle and into another man's arms. I woke up in a cold sweat. Some mornings, she'd kiss me goodbye, and I'd wonder if she even meant it. I tried talking to her once, just once. It was a Saturday afternoon, and she was folding laundry. I said, "Hey, are we okay?" She looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," I said. "You've seemed distant lately. I just wanted to check in." She smiled again, that same practice smile. "I've just been stressed. Work's been crazy." I nodded. "I get that. I just miss us." She walked over and hugged me. It was brief, polite, one of those lean in and release kinds of hugs. Not the ones where you melt into the other person. "Everything's fine," she said, squeezing my hand once. "We're good." But we weren't. And I think she knew I knew. That night, I watched her sleep. She looked peaceful. She always did. Like nothing could touch her. Like guilt didn't know her name. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wide awake. My gut had never screamed louder. Something was wrong. Doubt is a slow poison. It doesn't kill you all at once. It seeps in, drop by drop, until one day you wake up and everything feels contaminated. I tried to convince myself I could live with not knowing. That maybe it was just stress or a phase or paranoia getting the better of me. But the truth was louder than my denial. And eventually, I reached the point where I needed to see it with my own eyes. It started with a lie, one that came dressed like an ordinary Tuesday. We were sitting at the kitchen table eating takeout, and Jenna told me she had a business dinner coming up on Thursday. Nothing unusual. Her department entertained clients all the time. But when I asked who was going, she hesitated. Not obviously, just a flicker of pause between bites. "Oh, just the team," she said casually. "Aaron's hosting." Aaron, her boss. The same name that had started showing up in stories lately. The same guy she mentioned 3 times in a single week after never bringing him up for over a year. Suddenly, Aaron had become the center of every anecdote. Funny things he said in meetings, random quotes from emails, casual compliments he gave her about her leadership presence. I nodded. "Sounds fancy." She shrugged. "Not really, just business." But my gut said otherwise. So I made a plan. The restaurant was easy to find. She mentioned the name offhandedly once when talking to a friend on the phone. I made a mental note and looked it up that night. Upscale, modern, the kind of place with dim lighting and cocktails that come in glasses you're afraid to touch. I called in a favor. My buddy Sean owns a catering company, and one of his teams had recently picked up contracts at that same restaurant for private events. I asked if he could get me a server's uniform, just for a few hours. He hesitated. I gave him a look. He handed me a black apron, a pressed white button-down, and said, "Be careful, man." Thursday came. She left the house wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Tight, classy, elegant. Her makeup was perfect. Perfume strong but not overpowering, like she wanted to make an impression, but not seem like she was trying to. "You look great," I said, and I meant it. She smiled at me, soft, almost sad. "Thank you." Then she left. 10 minutes later, so did I. I got to the restaurant early, changed in the staff locker room without asking questions, and slipped into the crowd of employees like I belonged there. No one looked at me twice. It was a busy night, and the chaos worked in my favor. From behind the bar, I scanned the room until I saw her. Jenna, table for 2, and not a client dinner. There was no team, no crowd, just her and Aaron. He was seated across from her, leaning in. Not close enough to kiss, but close enough to be inappropriate. His body language screamed familiarity, comfort, possession. She laughed at something he said. The way she tilted her head back. It wasn't her polite, work laugh. It was real, unfiltered. The kind of laugh you give someone who already has a piece of you. I watched them talk, their gestures in sync, eyes locked. They weren't coworkers sharing a meal. They were people who had crossed a line a long time ago. Then it happened. He reached across the table and touched her hand. She didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. She smiled and let it linger. And then, God help me, she leaned in and kissed him. Not a peck. Not a mistake. A slow, knowing kiss like the kind you give someone you've kissed 100 times before. Right there. In public. Like I didn't exist. I felt something inside me shift. Like the ground cracked open under my feet and nothing was stable anymore. I stood there, frozen, the tray in my hand suddenly heavy. No one noticed me. I was invisible, which was fitting, considering that's how she'd made me feel for weeks. They didn't see me when they laughed again, or when she tucked her hair behind her ear like she always does when she's nervous. They didn't see me when they toasted to something I couldn't hear, clinking their glasses like it was all some perfect secret. But I saw everything, every movement, every lie. And in that moment, I stopped wondering. I stopped hoping. I stopped giving her the benefit of the doubt. It was real. It had been real for a long time. I left before they finished their drinks. I couldn't watch anymore. Couldn't breathe in that space. My chest was tight. My hands were numb. I changed out of the uniform in the alley behind the kitchen and walked 4 blocks in the cold before I even realized where I was going. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just existed, quietly, like someone watching their own life from the outside. When I got home, the silence hit me harder than anything else. Our house. Our stupid, cozy house with framed photos and monogrammed towels felt foreign, like someone else's memory. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at our wedding photo. She was smiling so big in it, holding my hand like she'd never let go. I stared at it for a long time. Then I turned it face down. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft hum of the refrigerator downstairs and the occasional creak of old pipes in the walls. Sounds that usually meant home now felt like strangers whispering around me. Jenna didn't come home until almost midnight. I heard her heels click softly against the hardwood, the deliberate quiet of someone trying not to be noticed. She paused outside the bedroom door. For a moment, I thought she might open it, say something, confess, but she didn't. She went straight to the guest bathroom, showered quickly, and slipped into bed beside me without a word. I kept my breathing steady, pretending to be asleep. Her back faced me, and I lay still, inches away from a person I no longer recognized. In the morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Made coffee, toasted bread, hummed along to the radio. She kissed me on the cheek before leaving for work, something she hadn't done in weeks, and said, "Have a good day, babe." I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip the cabinets off the walls and ask her who she thought she was fooling. But I didn't. I nodded. I smiled. I took a sip of the coffee she handed me and let the acid burn on the way down. She left, and I got to work. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to throw accusations like darts in the dark. I wanted facts. Cold, undeniable truth. The kind you can drop on a table without saying a word and still hear hearts shatter. I started with her laptop. She always used the family MacBook for work. Claims it's easier to type on than her office-issued one. She was careless once, months ago, and never signed out of the cloud. I remembered. I opened the system and started digging. Photos first. Company parties. Candid Team SH*TS. Conference room selfies. A picture of her with Aaron, both holding coffee cups with their initials scribbled on the sides. Smiling like teenagers at a high school formal. Too close. Too casual. Too much. Next, I checked the backups. She had recently deleted her texts, but the cloud had copies. Old conversations synced automatically. And sure enough, there they were. archived strings of words that blurred the line between professional and personal with frightening ease. It started tame. Aaron, you looked K*lur in that meeting today. That green blouse is dangerous. Jenna, dangerous is good. Keeps them focused. Aaron, keeps me focused anyway. Then it got worse. Aaron, wish I could be in 2 places tonight. This dinner is a bore. Jenna, you'll survive. I'll save dessert for you, winking face. Aaron, rather have you for dessert. I kept scrolling, kept reading, kept dying 1 word at a time. There were voice notes too, late-night messages. Her whispering into the mic, calling him baby, like it belonged to him now. I listened with headphones, the sound thick in my ears, drowning everything else out. It didn't feel like eavesdropping. It felt like finding a body in a place you once called safe. By mid-afternoon, I had a folder, labeled simply proof, filled with *TS, saved audio, and photos. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but holding it felt like control, like leverage, like the first brick in the wall I'd have to build to protect myself. I closed the laptop and sat in the silence. Then I thought of something else, her old phone. Months ago, she'd upgraded to a newer model and tossed the old one into the junk drawer in the kitchen. I found it buried under expired coupons, rubber bands, and a broken charger. The battery was dead, but the device itself was intact. I plugged it in, waited for the light to blink, and turned it on. No passcode. She hadn't wiped it. The photos on that phone told their own story. Mirror selfies in unfamiliar hotel rooms. A dinner spread lit by candles. A picture of her holding a wine glass, taken by someone else, his shadow visible in the corner of the frame. But it was the videos that broke me. One in particular. She was laughing, holding the phone in selfie mode, sitting on a balcony somewhere. She turned the camera toward Aaron, who smiled sheepishly, shirtless, holding a cup of coffee. I told you we shouldn't film, he said, reaching for the phone. You love it, she whispered, then turned the camera back to herself and winked. I paused it there. That wink. That same wink she used to give me when we were out in public and she wanted to tell me she was mine. When no one else was watching. She'd given it to him. I should have been furious. But all I felt was numb. Like everything had already been burned and I was just walking through the ashes. Later that night, she came home and kissed me again. She smiled and asked if I wanted to order Chinese. I said yes. We ate dinner on the couch, watched half a movie, and I even laughed once, out of instinct, not amusement. She rested her head on my shoulder and fell asleep there. And I sat there, knowing everything, holding every secret she thought she'd buried, wondering how long she'd been pretending. There's something dangerous about silence when you know too much. It starts to hum. It follows you into every room, wraps itself around your thoughts like static. I walked through the next week in a kind of hyper-aware autopilot, saying the right things, nodding at the right moments, playing the part of the husband she thought was still in the dark. But every move I made now had weight. Everything had shifted, because now I wasn't looking for answers. I had them. I just needed an ending. It's strange how once you see the truth, once you really see it, there's no going back to how things used to be. The little things become unbearable. I couldn't stand the sound of her laugh anymore. Not after hearing it echo in a hotel balcony video meant for someone else. I couldn't look at her hands without thinking about the texts where she described how soft Aaron's touch was. I couldn't hear her phone buzz without imagining his name lighting up the screen. But I waited. I needed the right moment. It came on a Wednesday morning, over a bowl of cereal. She told me she was planning a work celebration, a company milestone. Apparently, Aaron's team had landed a major deal, and Jenna, ever the loyal second-in-command, was organizing a small party for the office. Just drinks, music, nothing wild, she said between bites of granola. Mostly internal people. I'll be home late. I asked where it would be. She said downtown. I asked if spouses were invited. She smiled and shook her head. Not that kind of thing. Just staff. Of course it was. I nodded like I believed her. And that night, after she fell asleep with her back turned toward me, I lay awake mapping everything out. If she wanted a celebration, she was going to get one. I called Sean again, same friend who helped me with the server uniform. This time, I needed more than just a favor. I needed access. Jenna had booked the venue through a professional event service, and as luck would have it, Sean's team had catered there before. He gave me the name of the event coordinator, a woman named Roxy, and said she owed him one. The next morning, I reached out under a fake name. Told Roxy I was part of the entertainment team and needed to confirm a few AV requirements for the night of the event. She bought it. No questions asked. We set a time for me to swing by the venue and test the equipment. By Thursday afternoon, I was standing in the projection booth of a stylish downtown space with exposed brick walls and expensive lighting. The same room where Jenna would be laughing with her coworkers and sneaking glances at a man who didn't wear a wedding ring. Roxy showed me how to cue slides, manage the audio levels, and override the main projector. We normally use USB or AirDrop from the side panel, she said, tapping the corner of the console. It's plug and play. I thanked her, and when she left the room to take a call, I plugged in my own drive. The video was already trimmed. Short, precise, just under 2 minutes. It opened with a conference room timestamped 3 months ago. Grainy footage from the office security cameras. Jenna and Aaron alone. First, they were just talking. But then he moved closer. She laughed, touched his arm. He touched her face. And then there it was, the kiss. Obvious. Undeniable. No ambiguity. It ended with a still image I had edited in, a freeze frame of them at dinner, from the night I wore the server uniform. Her hand in his eyes on her lips. A caption underneath. Sometimes the truth needs a little light. I set it to autoplay on command, tested the volume, and deleted any trace of my input. The drive stayed in my pocket. When I got home, she was curled up on the couch with her laptop, writing the final email invites. I walked past her and kissed the top of her head like nothing was wrong. She smiled up at me, completely unaware. Big night tomorrow, I said. Yup, she said. It's gonna be fun. I nodded. Hope they appreciate the work you've put in. She leaned back and sighed. Aaron's been helping a lot. Honestly, we make a good team. I forced a smile. Yeah, I said. You do. The next day, she left early with a box of decorations and a bottle of champagne tucked under her arm. Wish me luck, she said at the door. Good luck, I said, holding her gaze longer than I meant to. Knock 'em dead. She smiled. Always. And then she was gone. I waited an hour, then changed clothes. Same trick. Same uniform. Different night. I parked 2 blocks away and walked in through the staff entrance. The place was already buzzing. Music thumping low, laughter bouncing off the brick walls. The hum of people who thought they were safe inside their private little bubble. I kept to the shadows. No one noticed me. I was invisible again. She wore red. Not a work red, him red. The same dress from the restaurant. She stood at the center of a circle, glass in hand, laughing at something Aaron said. He stood close. Too close. Perfect. At 8:42 p.m. The music paused for the planned slideshow. Jenna stepped up to the mic, thanked the team, introduced Aaron, and talked about their incredible year. He said a few words too. Something about collaboration and loyalty. I waited until the applause. Then I pressed play. The lights dimmed. The screen blinked once. And then there it was. First, no one reacted. The first few seconds just looked like ordinary office footage. But then people started recognizing faces, their faces. Whispers spread. Someone gasped. One woman dropped her drink. And when the kiss hit the screen, the room went still. Dead quiet. No music. No movement. Just the soft mechanical hum of betrayal being laid bare. When it ended, no one clapped. No one said a word. Jenna stood frozen by the mic, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. Aaron stepped back like he'd been struck. The silence was louder than anything I'd ever heard. I didn't wait for fallout. I walked out through the back door, into the crisp night air, and kept walking. My hands were steady. My heart was not. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel crazy. I felt seen. The silence after the video was deafening. No music, no laughter, just eyes shifting, faces pale. Jenna stood frozen, exposed. Aaron mumbled something, then vanished through the crowd. I never looked back. At home, her keys clicked in the door hours later, but I didn't move. Her suitcase sat by the wall, packed. No words were needed. She saw the truth laid bare, and knew it was over. The next morning, everything was still. Her side of the bed untouched. The paternity test confirmed what I already suspected. The child wasn't mine. Jenna left without a fight, moving in with her sister. The house was quieter than ever, but it wasn't the silence of lies anymore. It was clean, cold, final. A beginning born out of betrayal. I didn't just lose her, I let her go.